Welcome in, Lefty Network presentation. We present 4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks, a podcast about Notre Dame college football. And then we'll do a little something at the end called the RPO. We'll give some topics and let Reg run it, talk about it, or pass on it. Like, I don't want to talk about that. I am Sean Davis, the producer for Reggie Brooks. Reg, glad to be with you this season, each and every week. Notre Dame fans will have a chance to hit him up on social media or hit myself, SD2 Mics, up on social media and leave your questions or comments. We have a couple from Notre Dame fans that we'll get to at the end of the show. If you do want to put in a super chat, go ahead. It will be greatly appreciated. Reg, how are you feeling going into this first game on Sunday night?
I'm feeling pretty good. The two deep came out for the Irish. I like what I see. I'm excited about this team. Again, what they bring to the table this year is the defense. This defense, I think, is going to be lights out. I love the speed at the second level, but I'm very interested to see getting some of these guys back, to get after the quarterback. That's going to be a big key thing for us, and then having these big guys up front to be able to stop the run in the middle of the middle of the defense. So, and we've seen this secondary and what they can do. I mean, they've lost a few guys, but I like the depth and also the competitiveness in that group. So I'm looking for the Irish to do a few things that will put a smile on the Irish faithful.
Hey, it's the 28th meeting between Notre Dame and Miami on Sunday night. Notre Dame leads the series 18-8-1. However, down in Miami, Notre Dame is 6-7-1 against the Hurricanes. First meeting between Marcus Freeman and Mario Cristobal as head coaches, both sides in the top 25. That has happened 9 previous occasions when they met. And of course, Miami fans have been beating their chests all week because the last time the Fighting Irish visited South Beach to take on the Hurricanes, they came away with a 41-8 devastating loss as the number 3 ranked team in Hard Rock Stadium. So you talked about something before the show. You said, man, where is all of this bravado from this Miami Hurricane fan base and all the pundits when they talk about picking Miami against Notre Dame? Where is it coming from? Edge, what are your thoughts about that? What are you thinking about this Miami Hurricane team early on?
Again, that's been my question from the giddy up is where is all this, what's different about Miami this year, from a positive standpoint, because again, if you look at them last year, you saw a lot of, it was Cam Ward, and he was the guy that was making things go. And you look at them now this year, secondary wise, they've gotten better, but what has, from an offensive standpoint, you lose Cam Ward, you lose Restrepo, so you're leading receiver, you're basically all Mr. All-World quarterback, and then you get Carson back, and Carson back is a heck of a player, but he's missed time, So I'm just in the offensive line wise, they bring back some starters, but that offensive line was not great. It was not coming out of the season last year. Not a lot of good things. You didn't see a lot of great things outside of Cam Ward, and and a lot of times he was running for his life because that offensive line had some holes. So I'm curious to see what the difference is from this year to last year in regards to this offense without a Cam Ward and just in a Restrepo, 2 key aspects of this team that I think they were having to outscore people. that was my thing. I could see if the defense was consistent in stopping people, but they had to put up 50 points to get a win.
So 4 for 40. You say 4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks. What's that? Well, it's pretty simple. We're going to have 4 topics that Reggie's going to attack, like he used to attack the whole out of the backfield every time he got a rock. We're going to do that. And then we're going to do something at the beginning of each show. We're going to do a special for each game, 4 points of contact. 4 points of contact. Reg is going to talk about the 4 major things to look for in this week's matchup. The Miami Hurricanes against Notre Dame, Sunday night, Hard Rock Stadium, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Reg, what's your point of contact for the Notre Dame offense versus this Miami defense?
Well, for me, it starts up front. So we lost quite a bit on the offensive side. I mean, on the defense, and going to that championship game, our defensive front was down, I believe, 3 or 4, starting level guys on that team, and I think that's where Notre Dame, lost the game. They couldn't stop the run, and they were really getting after them, up front. But you get these guys back. I think, again, getting Traore back, Boubacar Traore, Hennish. So I think the depth is there. They got some young guys stepping up that have really stepped their game up this year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how our defensive line matches up against this Miami offense. And do we have the capacity to get after the quarterback and get after him consistently and put Carson back in tough situations and force him to make some difficult throws and hopefully some turnovers?
Let's go to the other side for our second point of contact. Give me the Notre Dame defense versus Carson Beck and the Miami offense. What's your fans look for?
Oh, I think I got it switched up. I was thinking offense, defense first. So the Notre Dame offense versus the Miami defense, I really think it's simply going to start up front. I mean, our offensive line, in particular, our center and our guards, how they match up against Miami's defensive tackles. And if we're able to control the center of the line, this backfield with Jeremiah Love, Jabron Payne, Price, and Aeneas Williams, it could be ugly. So if they cannot stop and control, if Notre Dame's offensive line, particularly the center and the guards, can control the line of scrimmage, it's going to be a wrap before the first quarter is over.
I think it's going to come out like that.
Again, like I said, I'm just basing it on the guys that Miami had and what they did last year and the struggles that they have. And again, you're talking about, they're going to go to a nickel defense. That is not going to bode well for them against Notre Dame's offensive line, because they got some big guys up front that really that's going to get after it. And they got better over the course of the season last year. And you have a bona fide superstar in the backfield. To me, I think both Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, that whole backfield is playing at a high level and they're playing with a lot of confidence. And when you are doing that, when the offensive line seeing guys breaking off 5, 10, 15, 20-yard runs, that gets them excited, and they're that much more geared up to put it on the defensive line to spring those backs, because offensive linemen love to see the backside. Looking at the back of their running backs as they're jetting down the field. So I really feel if they cannot control if Miami's defense is unable to manage and keep us from getting a 3-yard push or 2 to 3 yard push up front on a consistent basis, we're not going to need to throw the ball. And then if we have to throw the ball, the kid Malachi, 6'4", 215, 220. Then you got Great House coming off of a great season last year, and Faison, the guy in the middle. I mean, running the inside routes and really getting after guys. And I'm sitting here now. Look for Eli Reardon to be a big key to this offense this year, because big target, good hands, and he is going to be able to get down the middle of the field because you have such good talent on the outside with Greathouse and Malachi.
All right, the third point of contact for this matchup with the Hurricanes on Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. If you go to FanDuel right now, the Fighting Irish are a 2.5-point favorite over at FanDuel.com. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com. Third point of contact, your biggest concern for the Fighting Irish going into this matchup?
I guess for me, it would have to be our quarterback. And again, not that he doesn't have the talent, it's the unknowns. The unknowns at that position is a concern to me, because you need that. They don't need to do too much. The quarterback needs to manage the game, take care of the football, get the ball into the hands of his playmakers, and trust himself. And CJ Carr has a great, pocket presence and a great delivery of the football, but it's having a brand new quarterback going into a hostile environment. How is he going to manage the emotions? How is he going to manage, a hostile crowd? How is he going to manage this offense in a game situation for the first time?
My concern with that is I look at the matchup. Most people feel like it's a definite things with Carson Beck, with his experience. As I said before, the young man has thrown for down there 6,900 yards over the last 2 years with 52 touchdowns. However, you have to look at the nuance of the situation. I'm interested to see this. I look at Carson Beck being asked to win a game versus CJ Carr being asked to just not lose the game. And it goes back to your point with the offensive line being able to run the ball to help him out. Marcus Freeman talked about in his press conference, we have to support him with the defense. We have to support him with the offensive line, with our special guys on the outside and in the backfield. Everybody has to support CJ so that he can do his job and manage the game. Is that how you see it with the difference of the assignments for both quarterbacks?
Without a doubt. I mean, Carson Beck, they're looking for him to come in and lead and light it up because of, again, his track record, his time at Georgia. So there's a different expectation of him. With CJ Carr, hey, we all know, again, he's new in a sense. He's not new to Notre Dame, but he's new to the starting position. And that's where, again, having that supporting cast and knowing the guys around me I can trust. That was always a key thing that, we had with our teams, is like being trustworthy, being accountable. And when you have that, it builds confidence, especially at the quarterback position, because they know, hey, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to do it by myself. I have a great supporting cast that's going to look out for me, starting from the offensive line to the backs to the receivers. And then defensively, getting the ball back for him. Putting him in those short yardage situations or condensing the field. With special teams is another one. Like I said, we got to win the special teams game, win the battle of field position to put him in the most advantageous situation as possible, especially in this first game, because you make your biggest strides from game 1 to game 2. So if he has that comfort and confidence coming out of game 1, it'll propel him to say, hey, I know I can do this. So the more support that he has, the more opportunity to get out there and the more plays he gets is going to benefit not only him, but this offense as a whole.
All right, give us your X factor for the fourth point of contact, your X factor for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, offensively and defensively, going into the matchup.
Offensively, I have to say my X factor, and again, like I said, I kind of touched on it, is the tight end. I'm really going to be interested to see how they use the tight end and his ability to get down the middle of the field and put pressure not only on your linebackers but on those safeties to say, okay, hey, if you guys are going to go and play coverage and go play cover 2 and try to cover down on the outside guys, we got a guy that can get down the middle of the field, and he's a big target, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on that defense to either back up, especially if they start to try to crowd the line and stop the run. You slip that tight end down the seam, and boom, you hit them enough with that, they'll have to back up, and then you start pounding with the run. So I'd say for me, the X factor will be the tight end, in particular, Eli Reardon.
All right, that's point number 1. We went over the Miami. Go ahead. Yeah, defense. Okay. I'm sorry.
Defensively, it's the safeties. Again, we know we got with the Don Shula, but you lost, a great one, that went to the league and is killing it right now in Atlanta. So we need those safeties to be on point to where we can play down coverage and really get downhill and force them into passing situations, because we already know what we got with the cornerbacks. We got some strong corners, and the ability for the safeties to come up, make tackles, and cover is going to be huge, especially if we're going to be able to get out the quarterback on a consistent basis.
So those are the 4 points of contact and the Miami Notre Dame rivalry. We gave you the background. We set you up for Sunday night, 30 p.m. Central Time. Once again, FanDuel.com. FanDuel app, download it right now. Notre Dame sits as a 2.5 point favorite, over under at 53.5 right now. FanDuel.com. Let's get over to our second point. And Notre Dame has a lot to prove this year. Even though we come off of this national championship run, confidence high within the program, within the fan base. However, if we take a big picture look at what Notre Dame still sits, do they still sit right on the outside of the upper echelon programs in college football? And do they have some other markers to meet, some other boxes to check, and some other hurdles to jump in this 2025 season? Give us some of those things you feel like Notre Dame still have to prove, led by Marcus Freeman in the 2025 season.
The most important thing that they have to prove, and it is to themselves, is that they can avoid those, lapses in play. Can we play consistently for 4 quarters? And then when we play those what's considered lesser teams, not get so complacent to where you allow somebody to sneak up on you. Because again, the parity in college football is a lot more prevalent now than it was 10 years ago. So some of these teams that they're looking at is, oh, we can we can kind of coast. No, there's no such thing. They need to be able to stay on point, stay locked in for 4 quarters for all 12 games. And over the last 3 years, there's always been that slip up. So that is the thing for me. That is the most critical aspect of what they need to do, is maintain focus, be disciplined, every game after game, and not have any letdowns.
So getting over that hurdle, I have one more for you, Red. I think it's going to be very important. Can Notre Dame show themselves to be a consistent national title contender in consecutive years? We've seen them get to that point and then have a difficult season, maybe the 4-8 season coming off that 2015 season, where before and even after Malik's injury, you felt like they still had a chance to sneak into the playoff. And then you talk about the 19-20 season. They got to the playoffs. They faced Clemson. They lost to Clemson, but they weren't able to follow that back up where you felt like they were a true contender. I think this season goes a long way to establishing them and putting them in that upper echelon of, say, the top 4 teams. I don't think they'll really be able to stamp what they've done. I think Ohio State is that team that they're going to have to beat at some point in the future. I really do. But as far as this year and making that next step, do you really think the first 2 games will go a long way to even continuing to change the narrative surrounding Notre Dame under Marcus Freeman? If they get past Miami and Texas A&M, you start to feel that people are going to take them a little bit more serious?
I don't think that's really the issue. It's like I said, we talked about it. They get up for the Miamis and the Texas A&Ms. It's the Purdue and the Arkansas game following, in particular Arkansas, that concerns me. It's like you talked about it. To get to that upper echelon, it starts by being consistent game in and game out. And this is, I agree that this is the season that if you can show, hey, we're not that, we don't have those lapses. We're going to be consistent and play at a high level week in and week out. And, we don't get, like I said, just go all in for Miami and A&M and then go, Purdue comes in and we kind of like, oh, well, we got this. Or we go down to Arkansas and feel like, hey, we can take a breather. No, you're Notre Dame. And part of that is them taking on the mantle of being who Notre Dame is. You don't have to, a lot of people either love Notre Dame or hate them. So when Notre Dame is good, that's good for college football, period. But it starts with, hey, if you're going to be the Notre Dame that you want to be, you have to take care of those lesser teams and do it in a manner which it leaves no doubt. Yeah, again, like I said, beat the Miamis and the USCs and the Texas A&Ms, and it can be a little close, but it's what do you do when you play those teams that are considered, lesser than you? Are you going to play down to their level? Are you going to raise your level of play and play the game that you're capable of playing? So that comes back to like the consistency of being in that upper echelon starts with the consistency in play week in and week out.
Preparation is always key. Your preparation has to be consistent. It can't drop off when you're facing the lesser teams. You might even want to ratchet it up because that's what Lou Holtz used to do to you guys when you were facing the academies and the Purdue, the lesser teams. Practice that week was a little bit tougher than it was when you went up against the higher ranked teams. Right here, 4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks, Lucky Lefty Network. I'm going to throw one more at you as we talk about what Notre Dame has to prove, Reg. The passing game and the quarterback in Notre Dame. Is it finally time for Notre Dame to prove they can have a quarterback to throw for over 3,000 yards at Notre Dame? Is it that time? Is that something that you feel like this year that they have to check in terms of checking the box? Or do you think with the team they have around C.J. Carr is something that they can delay maybe one more year until he fully matures as a quarterback?
Well, again, I think it starts with, like I said, playing within themselves. And if you get to the point where, again, you're going to see 8-man box fronts, you're going to have to throw the ball. But I have confidence that, CJ and Kenny, they've had a full spring, a full, summer in fall, preseason of practices and working with their guys and seeing different looks. I'm not as concerned as a lot of people may think you would be with a quarterback in the passing game, because teams they're going to say, hey, when they see that run game, they got to make a business decision. Do we continue to let them punch us in the mouth and run down our throat? Or do we force this young guy to see what he could do? And I think when, given one-on-one situations, I think our receiving core will show up. because that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to play more of a man-to-man look so they can get more bodies down in the box to stop the run. And then, hey, you go one-on-one. And I like I said, I love CJ's ability to place the ball in his pocket presence. So if they're going to blitz him, you get one-on-one, find that matchup and go to work.
It's funny you mentioned that because last night we had the legendary national championship quarterback Tony Rice on with us, your teammate. And he said, man, I wish I had 6'4", 220 a wide receiver to throw to when I was playing quarterback. So, look, the talent at the wide receiver position has definitely upgraded. And I think that room is in position now to aid and assist a young quarterback making his first start. Once again, I look for those big-time players. You talked about Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, Malachi Fields. You didn't even mention Will Pauling, Micah Gilbert, who's had a fantastic summer and also a fantastic fall camp, and Elijah Burris, who has been the freshman star offensively at camp coming in. You see him being the backup at the field position. That tells you the depth and how talented he is to be able to break through and be a backup in that wide receiver room that has been upgraded. So you have to be excited about the chances of CJ Carr to eclipse 3,000 yards. We're talking about regular season. Now, I'm sure he's going to do it. If they go to the playoffs and go to 3-4 games in the playoffs, he definitely probably will eclipse 3,000. But we want to see if he can get it done during the regular season because it hasn't been done in a while by the Notre Dame quarterback. Let's get to number 3. Red, the Big Ten. And they're well within their race. 2 teams in the semifinals of the college football playoff. Last I checked, the SEC, they had one. That was Texas. And the Big Ten should send Notre Dame a nice gift because if it were not for Notre Dame, it would have been an all Big Ten national championship game. And matter of fact, the Big Ten, the rest of college football should send thank you cards to Notre Dame because if it had ended up an all Big Ten, if you think the Big Ten are trying to be bullies this offseason, just think how they would have been if it had been Penn State, Ohio State in the national championship game. And the Big Ten is leading a charge right now to expand the playoff. We know those rights of the 12-team playoff end after this season. The expectation is next year there will be a move to 16 teams. That seems feasible. But now the Big Ten is talking about expanding to 24 to 28 teams, trying to give it the March Madness feel. You're talking about 5 teams, 7 teams from a conference probably getting in. A 5-loss team last year under this format would have gotten in from the Big Ten. I think that would have been Minnesota. Is it too much, or do you think somewhere down the line they will want, because of money, of course, to get this March Madness feel? But I just think basketball and football are totally different, Reg. I just think it's totally different.
I mean, so what are you going to get rid of? Because that's too many games. So you're going to get rid of conference championships? They make pretty good money on those conference championships. I don't know how many conferences are going to be willing to give that up. So, I mean, and then, you know, it was already, I mean, the bowl system was already bad enough when, like I said, if you just had to have a winning season to get to a bowl. So, I mean, are you trying to go back to that dynamic? No, I think, 16 teams is more than enough. And I be honest with you, like I said, I thought 12 was plenty. Because again, you're talking about you're going into freaking February. If you add that, I mean, come on. I understand you want to make some money, but let's consider that these young men they're still in school. I mean, I know everybody is, focused on the money and how much money they can get, but they're still going to a institution of higher learning, and they we would hope that they would at least feign like they want to get a degree. But 20, what? No, come on, let's be serious. And maybe that's just something that they just throwing out there so they can get to the 16 number. Because I'd be balking at 16. Let's say the 12 is. I thought this first go round was great. I mean, you had guys that went to three big bowl games in 1 year. Notre Dame went to a Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, and for all intents and purposes, a Peach Bowl at the national championship. Man, if you went to a bowl, that used to be the bowl was, you go to this January 6th bowl, man, you made it. I was blessed to go to 4. These guys, you got freshmen that have already been to three January 1 bowl games in 1 year. That's insane. So to sit there and try to let's add more teams to the playoffs, no, that's asinine. Let's stick, do the 12. 12 has worked. Okay, I'll give you 16. But at some point, this is still, young men that are playing and developing. That's too much. That's too much contact and hitting on their bodies that, they're going to, for those that make it to the next level, that's fine. But, I know they want to call them pros now, but they're not. So, I just think about the freshmen and sophomores on the team that out there, these aren't grown men. There's a distinct difference between the pros and college, just like the difference between high school and college. So come on, let's stop chasing money and try to respect the game as it is, because it is a game. And for you to even present that, to me that's disrespectful to the game itself.
I mean, you just talked about even in the early rounds, the first ever 12-team playoff game was played in Notre Dame Stadium. Notre Dame beats Indiana, and Kirk Cignetti on with the Big Ten Network after the game on the field is saying, I have transfers back on campus waiting for me to get back so we can recruit them, hopefully, to come to Indiana next year. So those are the logistics that just even with the 12-team playoff, it becomes difficult. It's made life difficult with recruiting, the transfer portal. When does it open up? When does it close? You have to shift that once again. Do you shift signing day now from December to early signing day back to February? It's like, what is going to happen? Because you're shrinking everything by expanding and extending the calendar year. And like you said, or do you start the playoffs a little bit earlier? The early bowl games that start around the middle of December, those teams get their shine. But I guess now some of those teams will be included in the playoffs. So now I guess maybe they will bump the calendar up into the middle of December. But then that takes the gloss off of the January 1st, bowl games, which they have right now. And in the middle of December is like the heart of the end of the NFL season. So are you really trying to compete with the monster that is the NFL?
I think they are. I think they think they have the wherewithal to do so. But, and again, I just don't like that, we're pushing something. And again, and it's all for money. It's not for the betterment of these young men to grow and develop as people. This is about money. And again, I'm fine with, because it's really to say, okay, hey, how do we, increase the revenue so it can offset what we have to pay these student athletes now? And it's like, come on, is it that important that the health of these young men, and they're playing when school starts. School starts in January. So if you're extending this, we're bumping up against the Super Bowl for one in the NFL playoffs, but you're also bumping up against, they have classes whether they go to them or not, I'm not going to get into all that, but they have classes. And if they're at a bowl game or a playoff game, they're not in class. They're not in class. So come on, let's I know, again, it's like trying to figure out this. When they brought that up, I'm like, whose idea was that to say, let's go to 18, 24 teams? What is the I would love to know the thought process behind that, because that's stupid.
You know what? I had a conversation with someone that is an exec over at the Big Ten Network, and they had an idea of what they think some people are throwing about. I think some of the top teams, so let's say Ohio State and Penn State were the main reason that big revenue came into the Big Ten, because of their run in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And they are the ones, the flag carriers and flag bearers of the conference, along with Michigan, pretty much on an annual basis. They split that money. I don't think they're happy consistently being the flag bearers of the conference and always having to split that money with teams that don't have a legitimate shot. So maybe if they expand the field and allow more of teams to get in when they come to the table, maybe they can ask for more of a percentage of the money, because those teams are now earning their own money with early round participation in the playoffs. It really is something strategically. When I thought about it, I said, you know what, that would benefit Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. That would give them leverage, because right now, as it's currently constituted, whatever comes in via a Big Ten team is shared by the entire conference. So that's just something to think about. I don't know if that is really at the forefront, or one of the main things is at the forefront for the conversation or for it coming up by Big Ten. But I do know that Big Ten Commissioner Tony Batiti, he ran the idea by everybody else, but you don't bring an idea up unless you have serious thoughts about it down the road.
Yeah, especially like that. To put that out there and put it out in the public sphere, to me, that, again, to your point, is like, okay, yeah, they're the flag bearers, but again, from a conference standpoint, no one told you to go pull in, a Rutgers and a Maryland. No one said go out to, pull in, a USC and a UCLA, Oregon and Washington. You made that decision. So, just because you made that decision, thinking, again, Oregon is doing well. Like I said, USC, I think they'll get back on track. But you have to share the revenue. But, okay, when is Rutgers going to be serviceable? Maryland. So you're trying to get more of your folks in there just because you added more teams. And again, you did it to get into those TV markets of New York and the Mid-Atlantic and California, and particularly LA. So, hey, you made your bed. Don't try to get somebody else to fix what you set up for yourself. And for the Penn States and the Ohio States, y'all signed up for it. You don't? Did they tell you we had to accept these other schools and expand? That's a choice. So now you say, hey, so we can get more money. So we get more money if we get more teams in. So let's create a playoff system with more teams. Go on somewhere with that. No. Don't.
Reg calls pause on that.
Yeah.
4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks. You can find us here each and every Wednesday, right around this time, between the 5 p.m. and 6 o'clock hour. We'll be giving you 4 topics each week, of course, for number 40, because no one toted the rock wearing the number 40 like that dude, Reggie Brooks, courtesy of Lefty Network, Bleav Network, and the audio side over there, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And don't forget FanDuel, FanDuel.com. Notre Dame has the second best odds to go undefeated in the regular season at plus 420, only behind the Ohio State Buckeyes. You can go over and find that over at the FanDuel app. Download it right now. So let me tell you something. Marcus Freeman comes into this season. You talked about his team. You talked about the confidence that you have in this team, the strengths of this team, the X factor of this team going into that matchup with Miami. He once again sat down with the host of The Pivot. Of course, you know, one of those hosts, Ryan Clark, his son Jordan Clark, played for Marcus Freeman last year. And he sat with them again. He talked about how the perception of Notre Dame has changed. He talked about Jeremiah Love. He talked about the upcoming season. But then one of the things he talked about is that you wanted to talk about is this clip right here when he went into the playoff run and he ended up saying something like this.
These one-game seasons, man, and you get ready to play an Indiana team that had done a heck of a job in Notre Dame Stadium. First playoff game on a campus. It was rocking. It was cold, but it was rocking. It was rocking, man.
Yeah, right.
That was a special night, you know. Then all of a sudden you get ready for Georgia. No, you try to humanize them, right? They're football players, man. You can't let perception of the mighty SEC, the Georgia Bulldogs, beat you before you step on the field.
Yeah.
Right? They're men. Like, they're just like us. I got so much respect for Coach Smart. Mm-hmm. That's a ball coach, man. That's a ball coach. And that football team. But the one thing this program ain't going to do is fear. No one. Like, we're going to go in this thing. We're going to go in there fighting, man. People make a big deal about the A&M entrance. And when I was getting ready to go, and like, that's the dogs. Hey, got me some dogs, man. Let's go. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I was once a player. I'm a competitor. Like, we don't fear no one.
And the atmosphere was nuts.
It was crazy. That's one of the best. A&M, it was one of the best. But like, these dudes didn't fear no one, right? And it showed when we're down 7 versus Penn State. Mm. We're down 7 versus Penn State at halftime, and you're down. What you gonna do? Mm-hmm. Right? You gonna go out there and fight and claw and do whatever it takes to find a way to win this game, or you gonna start feeling bad for yourself? And that's what they did. They went back and they started fighting, man. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh shoot, we're in the national championship. Right. We're in the national championship, and we know how that went. The thing that I remember about that game is these dudes never laid down. We were down 21 in the third, and they never laid down. Just kept going. They kept believing. And you know, that third down, 3rd and 11 or whatever it was, and Jeremiah Smith and great plays, a great team, and we lost. But these dudes never quit. But I spent a lot of time saying, what could I as a leader done differently? There's lessons in losing, man. There's lessons in winning, but there's real lessons in losing. And, you know, if we get that opportunity, earn that opportunity again, we'll make some minor changes.
At the end there, he said we'll make some minor adjustments that we learned from getting back to that point, probably to make sure that his team is ready to go early in that type of matchup, and to make sure that they are who they have been the entire season, not just the players, but the coaching staff. Like, do what we've been doing. I think that's what he was speaking to. Look, Reg, I'm going to let you rock, because I can take that excerpt and I can go to church Sunday and preach a message, because there were so many jewels in that, right? What you're learning from losing more than you learn from winning. What it's talking about being a dog as a leader. When you know you have dogs, don't hold them back, let them off the leash. There's so many jewels he had in that excerpt right there. What stood out for you, Reg?
Well, just the point about, you know, the lessons learned and the confidence. You know, he talked about, you know, they're no different than us. And, you know, that was one thing that, you know, Coach Holtz was really big on with us, is that when we got to the game, no, it's not, whether it was Miami, whether it was Michigan, whether it was USC, it didn't matter. Penn State, when you got to the game, we don't have to beat them. They're coming to try to beat us. We're the top dog. And again, that's that mystique of Georgia. Georgia and the SEC, they're looked at as the top dog. We don't fear nobody. And I think that's a mindset that you have to instill as the leader of the program, that, hey, the guy that's across from you, he needs to worry about what you're going to do to him, not what he's going to do to you. And that's a mindset that has to be instilled week in and week out, day in and day out, and to where the players start to absorb. And again, you look at him, Marcus, young man, Marcus Freeman, and people made a big deal about him, at the A&M game. Dude, that got me fired up, because it's like, hey, you see your coach get fired up? Let's go. And I hope he does the same thing in Miami. It's like, hey, lean into the tradition, lean into the rivalries that you're coming into, and let them know to say, hey, yeah, this is a rivalry, but we the top dogs around here. We're going to come in your house and show you what we are and who we are. That's what I love about Marcus. This man has a tenacity and a grit about him, but it's not manufactured. That's just who he is. And I've always said the team takes on the personality of the head coach. And as Marcus has grown into this head coaching role, you've seen this team grow. You've seen this team develop. And, hey, damn good recruiter, man. He's getting them dogs. You can't be a dog if you didn't start off as one. It's not easy to turn into a dog. You have to have that dog in you when you come out the gate. So this man is going to go get them dogs. So when they grow up, them pit bulls, they're going to Rottweilers. You got to know where to go get them, and then you got to have the moxie to go get them. That's the thing about it. It's like, hey, this man is going to go get him. Him and his staff, like I said, no, we ain't playing second fiddle to nobody. When you come here, and the biggest thing that I've seen with Marcus, Coach Holtz, we'd always have this: do what's right, do the best you can, and show people you care. Marcus Freeman epitomizes those three things. He comes out, competes, he gives of himself, gives us, because he sacrifices his family to be out there, to be on the road, to recruit. And you know what you're getting with him, because he's going to be upfront with you. He's going to do what's right, not just for him, but for you as a player. You respect that as a player. And that's something, again, like I said, I read something about why the pro football players send their kids to Notre Dame, because this man cares about them. He's going to look out for them. So when you have that, you talking about run through a brick wall for him? Oh, I can believe that. I can believe that.
Yeah. Look, like I said, man, when he sat there the first time, because he said it and reiterated towards the end of the clip, the first time he sat up and leaned in and said, "We fear no one," I almost picked my laptop up and threw it into the wall. I was like, dude, this is what I'm talking
Let's
about.
go.
Let's go. A head coach that finally gets what Notre Dame is supposed to be about. Notre Dame is supposed to have that type of mentality. Like, yeah, we're the dogs. We are those dudes. And I want that. I want that for this program. I want that for these young Notre Dame fans that did not get to experience when you guys played. Reg, they don't know what it's like to have a dominant team take the field each and every week, to have an expectation like, hey, we're winning this game. We're not worried about winning this game. And I'm in utter shock if we don't win this game. And hopefully Notre Dame is starting to reestablish that, because this fan base, for the most part, I think a lot of people feel extremely confident going into this matchup on Sunday night. And we'll see whether or not Marcus Freeman and his players can deliver upon the expectations of the fan base. Well, that's 4 for 40. Those are the 4 topics with Reggie Brooks that you're going to get each and every week. Now we go into extra time. We have a question from a fan, Reg. We have a question from a fan. They wanted to know, what was one of your biggest life lessons at Notre Dame on or off the field that you carry with you to this very day?
Real simple, and I touched on it with those 3 questions, but what it means to be a teammate. People get in there and it's like, a teammate is somebody you play a game with. No, that's somebody you play with. A teammate is someone that to this day you fight with, you bleed with, you will do whatever you need to do, not only for that teammate, but that teammate's family. So, teammate is, to me, is family. And when someone is struggling, is having a hard time, I remember the times when, again, we didn't have the food that they had. We didn't have the food like they have now. So you had to hustle. So it's the willingness to go the extra mile for somebody that you care about. And as a Notre Dame football player, that was something Coach impressed upon us every day. Every day. Can you be trusted? Are you someone that's committed to doing things the right way? Do you care about the people you play with? Plain and simple. Family takes care of family in the good time and the bad, and that's a teammate. That's somebody that's going to be with you decades later. And I have a testament of 200 or 300 guys that will sit there and say the same thing. So that is the thing that I learned at Notre Dame that still I carry to this day, is I want to be a good teammate and someone that people will look to, not because I played football, because I showed somebody I cared about what was important to them and their families.
All right, we're going to extra time right here with our guy, Reggie Brooks, for a little segment as we get ready to get out of here called RPO. Of course, in football terms, that's run pass option. But when it comes to 4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks, he has the option to run it, talk about it, or say, nah, I'm going to pass on that right here on 4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks. Let's get it.
Bleav. Here it is.
All right. 4 for 40 Reggie Brooks, the RPO. The Ravens, they signed a certain Notre Dame player to an extension today. $100 million, $82 million guaranteed for former Notre Dame safety and NFL All-Pro Kyle Hamilton, making him the highest paid safety in the NFL and in NFL history. Run or pass on this, Red?
Oh, we're running this. That young man got his paper, and I am all for it because that dude is special. I remember when he came into Notre Dame, he just had a presence about him, and one of the nicest young men I've ever met. His family, great people, and he always stood for something. And again, when you see something like that happen for someone like him, because he was never, you hear about people in these, conflicts and about, signing, get extension, and that. Did you hear anything negative or otherwise about Kyle Hamilton and whether they were going to sign him again or not? Nothing. It just popped up, boom, he's the highest paid safety. Mm-hmm. He didn't talk about it. He didn't talk about, hey, I better get paid. I got to get it. He just went out and performed game in and game out. And not only he performed on the field, he is one of the most recognizable faces in his community because he's like, hey, this is a gift. I'm blessed. So I'm going to be a blessing to others. And that's a testament to his parents. So Kyle Hamilton, hey, and the good thing about it, I can see him getting, after that 4-year deal, he'll be maybe 29, 28, 29. He going to get that third contract, baby. Let's go.
For sure. Yes, sir. That's what you do it for, baby. You get to that third, maybe a fourth right now in today's time because, you come back and you see other guys jump you and you put in another 2 great years and now you come back to the table saying, hey, I deserve to be the highest paid safety. So he might get 4 contracts out of it, Reg. You never know.
Hey, and again, he is definitely deserving because only thing I've ever seen from him has been pure class.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's go to the next topic. Rashee Rice, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He finally got his punishment for that, tragic car accident. 6-game suspension. He'll miss the first 6 games of the NFL season. You really look at the case, I think he's getting off light with 6 games. I thought he might get half.
I'm passing on this one. No, I ain't touching that. Again, that's not about the game. That's a whole different dynamic. So I'm passing on that one.
Let's pass on. Let's go to the next one. Marcus Freeman in his press conference yesterday said, when asked about Kenny Minchie, he made it close because of his talent, how he's improved with his leadership. But then he said something that a lot of people begin to scratch their heads. One of the things I thought about in making my gut decision was I thought Kenny would handle it a lot better if he didn't get the job. Is it strange that is part of the equation in the quarterback decision for Marcus Freeman? Run a pass, Reggie.
Yeah, I'll run with this one because that is definitely a strange, take, in terms of, like I said, hey, either the guy wanted or not. And and it may have something to do with the fact that one kid left right after spring ball when he didn't, Angeli, when he didn't get it, he took off and went to Syracuse. And I would imagine, again, there's a lot of, with Carr being his pedigree, hey, and he's been younger, you could go from a pretty sturdy quarterback room to down to 1. And I do believe that, like I said, that Kenny's going to get some playing time and he's going to get some opportunities. Because again, how I read when Marcus said, he said announced the starting quarterback, he said he's a starter for the Miami game. I really think they're still working through that process, and Kenny he's going to still get some opportunities to go out and perform. But and I've said this before about Marcus. I said sometimes you don't need to always say tell the media everything. I sometimes I think he's a little too
honest and forthcoming.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you get some coach speak in there and just move on past them because I don't see the value in saying that because it's just like, what do you mean he'll take it better? And again, he knows his team better than we do, but I'm just a firm believer. It's like the media don't need to know everything. That's just my take.
Yeah, I think he would have been just fine with saying, I made a gut decision.
Yeah. And
I made a gut decision. That's it.
And
they try to come around the corner or spin the block. I made a gut decision.
Good decision.
They try to say it a totally different way. I made a gut decision.
Good decision.
Like they can be mad, but that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. Hey, this has been the first episode 4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks, presented by Lucky Lefty Network. We will be here through the entirety of the season, and hopefully that's going to include a nice long playoff run. The Fighting Irish will be here every Wednesday around this time. That dude ran the rock better, and he wore the 40 better than anybody ever at Notre Dame, according to my knowledge. Because I wasn't there back in the 50s and 60s, Reg. Maybe somebody back in the 50s, 60s did it a little bit better. I don't know. I'm speaking from my fandom and how I view and have viewed Notre Dame. Reggie Brooks is the best to do it. 4 for 40 with Reggie Brooks every week right here. 4 topics, and then we get to the RPO, run pass for Reggie Brooks, and then we let you go. Thank you guys so much. If you do want to lock in with Reggie, you can follow him at 40RBND, at 40RBND. And Reg, come on, man. You got to open up your preferences over at Instagram. Come on, people want to follow you.
Open up.
You got to go to your Instagram so people can actually follow you and send you messages, Reg. The fan base, they want to stay in contact with you.
I'm just not a great face messaging.
See, I'm gonna have to reach it.
Yeah, you got to give me coached up. You got to give me coached up, man.
I'm gonna tell your kids. I'm gonna have your kids help you, Reg.
My daughter, she probably would. She shows me how to use my phone anyway, so I'm good with that. I'm coaching.
But if you want to, definitely on X at 40RBND, hit Reggie Brooks up each week. If you have a question, send the question to him. We'll bring it up on the show. You can give it to me as well on X, Instagram, TikTok at SD2Mics. And as always, Lucky Lefty Network. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up. Leave your comments, questions, respond to all. Hey, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the holiday. Enjoy your families. And most of all, after Notre Dame wins, continue to make sure that you spin it different. We'll be back next week with Reggie Brooks, 4 for 40, right here, Lucky Lefty Network. Malik and I will see you guys at 8 o'clock Central Time tonight on the Lucky Lefty Podcast. Have a great evening.